Almost 10 years ago, I got a call from my dad. And my dad was in a third world country, and he was leading a pastor's conference where in this country faith isn't allowed, and they were underground in underground locations so that these pastors wouldn't get arrested, so they could go back to their villages and teach and love and share. And at this underground location where my dad's teaching these pastors, some men walk in with 4 little girls, and they start to auction off these 4 little girls. And one of the reasons why my dad is one of my biggest heroes and role models is my dad's not someone that can look the other way. So my dad takes out all the money in his wallet, which was around $1,250, and he's able to purchase the freedom of these 4 girls with all of the money that he had for the rest of his trip and to get back home. And afterwards he called me and he said, "Hey Timmy, how you doing?" I said, "Good, Dad, how are you? How's the trip going?" And he said, "Oh, it's pretty good." I said, "What are you up to?" He said, "Well, to tell you the truth, I just got to purchase the freedom of 4 young girls." It's hard to explain, but I knew when he told me that life was going to be a little bit different. Somehow I knew that even though it was just his words, it was a fight that I was called into. And I had the opportunity to get on a plane not long after and fly to this location and see those 4 and already others that had been rescued. And at first when you go, you think, oh, this is just gonna be like the movie Taken, right? And this is, it's just gonna be some big crime organizations that are doing it. And I realized that most of these sweet little boys and girls were, for the majority, sold by their family. One of the sweet young girls that was one of the first that I got to meet was a young girl that didn't make enough money one day for her mom. And her mom, being in a place of desperation, was so frustrated with her that when she came home, she grabbed her and she took her face and she boiled out her eye. Because she thought, you know what, if you don't make enough money for us, then you know what, I'll make you look a little bit worse, and maybe people will have a little bit more compassion, and then you can make more. But you see, that day when my dad was able to purchase the freedom of those first 4, he was also at a table with other pastors, other people that knew about God's love, that were called to care for the brokenhearted, that were called to defend the weak and the oppressed, that were called to stand up and fight for those that can't fight for themselves. And do you know how many of them stepped up to help my dad? Do you know how many of them said, "Hey, Mr. Tebow, let me go find him dinner. Hey, Mr. Tebow, let me go find him clothes. Hey, Mr. Tebow, let me go find him a place to stay"? Not one. Not one. Do you know why? Because they all had really good excuses. They had really good reasons. Well, Mr. Tebow, when you're purchasing the freedom of those 4, that the money that you give, it's going to go to those men, and they're probably going to do something else that's really bad with it. And yes, that is probably true. But go say that to those 4 girls. Go tell them. How many times have we in our lives found times and reasons to make really good excuses? Well, it's not really my problem. That's not really what I'm called to. That's not really my job. Yes, it is. It really is our job. As followers of Christ, it is our job. We hear in Scripture how personal it is to Jesus when he talks about caring for the oppressed and helping those that are sick and visiting those that are in prison and caring for those that have been abused and abandoned. It's personal to Jesus. He makes it personal to him when he said, "Whatever you've done for them, you've done to me." It's personal to him, but my question is it actually personal to us? That day, it became a lot more personal to me. And for us to really move the needle, to fight back against one of the greatest problems in the world, it's got to be personal to us. It has to be. Even in the darkness, light wins. And we have hope because we have Jesus, because we know in this battle, we've already won. Because what he's done for us, it's not because anything I've done or you've done. Because that's not what Christianity is about, is do's and don'ts. No, it's about done, because what he has done. And we get to fight from victory, not for victory, but we get to fight for those image bearers that are being abused, that are being persecuted, that are being trafficked. But the question is, will we not look away? Will we look at the issue? Will we look at the problem? And will we use all of our resources? Will we leverage everything for the sake of the most vulnerable, for the sake of those little boys and girls that are being trafficked, that are treated as less than, that are treated as nothing? The best biblical definition for hope is to look forward with confidence, expectation, and anticipation. Because the biblical definition of hope is based on the promises of God and knowing that he's not just a promise maker, but he's a promise keeper. And so we get to look forward with confidence, expectation, and anticipation, because what God has done, what he is doing, and what he will do. So even in the midst of the suffering, even in the midst of the pain, we know we can still have hope because light wins. But would we be willing to not look away and bring it to the world? Because we have the chance to be hope carriers to the world. You and me, we get to be hope carriers in so many different ways. Some of us going to the ends of the earth. Some of us sending to the ends of the earth. Some using resources, leveraging every different thing that we have. And so my challenge to all of us is that we get to play a role in the solution when we come together. Maybe that's in tech. Maybe it's in rescues. Maybe it's in legislation. Maybe it's in counseling. Maybe it's in connecting survivors with doctors, with nurses. Maybe it's in creating awareness. You know, a few of the awesome companies that come to my mind, one of them's Deja Vu, that's using pattern recognition for rescues. Another one is Eagle Freedom Fund, that is using their fund to invest and accelerate companies to fight against this evil. You know, there's so many different areas that you can be involved in, but look at your resources, look at what God has gifted you, and how can you use that in the fight? But ultimately, I would challenge all of us to say that we are all being called into this fight. And I know in the church world, we throw out that word calling all the time, but what does it really even mean? Best definition, I believe, for calling is an urgent and divine invitation to accept responsibility for a particular task. And I believe that this calling is urgent and it's divine. And I hope that we accept responsibility for this task, for every one of those 50 million. But we accept responsibility, meaning it's my job. It's your job, regardless of what anybody else does. Would we really believe that we serve a big God? And he is inviting us. And it's a divine calling, but it's also an urgent calling. But the question is, will we accept responsibility for this particular task, to move the needle for these 50 million so they one day might be able to experience faith, hope, and love. But we also get to see the hope that transforms lives. One of the sweet girls that we get to care for, she's been able to experience that hope. She's been able to experience a new identity. And that new identity means so much to her that she has changed her name from her old name to a new name that means Princess of the Lord, because she knows what her identity is now. And there is hope even in the midst of crisis and conflict and chaos. We get to see what hope does. We know when darkness and light meet, light wins every time. Would we be willing to accept responsibility and go bring that light to the darkness around the world? God bless you guys, and thank you.